Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Rav Dessler. Yesterday, I was unable to post the class in the group because there was some stuff they were doing in the synagogue that prevented me from doing it. There was a postcard that was sent to the shul that made it kind of like a insinuated, inappropriate, I'd say like openly death threats. So we had the police here yesterday who was going through the opening investigation and so on and so forth. And
that prevented your uploading?
My office was filled.
Will be able to.
I will upload it today. I was unable to do it yesterday. I still have the file, but so if you saw this class today, understand that the class above it should have been uploaded yesterday, and it was just because they were dealing with some technical difficulties. All right, so we're in the middle of we're talking about Rav Dessler. We're talking about the idea of Bitachon and Emunah. And we said yesterday that there's two different opinions as to how we understand Bitachon and Emunah. There's the Ramban, and there's also the Chovot HaLevavot. And it seems like from Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, he says that according to Chovot HaLevavot, one must trust in God specifically through human effort. According to that opinion, the Chovot HaLevavot means there has to be something called Hishtadlut. You got to put in your effort before you do anything. And then according to the Ramban, he says the true Bitachon is casting the burden solely on God. Two different approaches. Which approach works best for you? So Rav Shlomo Volbi, this is what he says. He says, from the Ramban, we also see that human effort is sometimes necessary, but not a positive mitzvah. Chovot HaLevavot innovated the idea that a person must engage in worldly efforts while simultaneously trusting in God. The Ramban sees effort as sometimes necessary, but not always ideal. I'm on page 2 in the notes. Rav Shlomo Volbi, we just read. So according to Rav Volbi, he says, the way he understands this topic, he says that the chidush of the Chovot HaLevavot is that of course you got to trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, but you have to have that trust that Hashem will do everything for you as well. The Ramban sees it that the effort is necessary but not always ideal. Meaning sometimes when we go out and we work, we often think that, well, okay, I'm doing my Hishtadlut, I got to do the work, right? When in reality, the challenge of going out and doing the work is thinking that it's all from me.
And what we learned yesterday is that Hishtadlut is the actual act of faith.
Correct. That's what we're going to get to. That it is the actual act of faith. So, for example, like we know that Moshe was the greatest Anav that ever lived. We know that Moshe was the greatest Navi that ever lived, and they go hand in hand. His Nevuah was directly correlated to his Anivut. Why? Because no one understood better than Moshe that it's all Hashem. And the real question we need to be asking, and I think I mentioned this once here before, is how was it possible for Moshe to even be an Anav?
Because he was able to appreciate the true greatness of the distance. But one thing you just said clicked.
Yeah.
The clearer his nevuah, the fewer clouds he had blocking his view of Hashem. So the rest of us who have more clouds covering and our arrogance and whatever it is prevent us from having that nevuah. And because we have the antithesis of anivut, that's why we're so far from the things we want to be near to.
Excellent. So you have a reality that works like this. God creates a world for us, and He says, sometimes you got to let go to let God. Okay? You got to let go to let God. Okay, so what this machloket, obviously we don't believe it's a machloket. I think we're going to come at the end, there's different tiers. Right? There's a higher level and the lower level. Okay? Chovot HaLevavot, the Ramban is talking about the highest level. Highest level is letting everything up to Hashem. By the way, this machloket is also found in the Gemara in Berachot between Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is of the opinion that you don't need to go out or work at all, leave everything up to God. Don't do nothing. And they say, the Gemara says there are those people that did like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and they succeeded, and there are those that failed. Most of them failed. And then Rabbi Eliezer, that's Rabbi Yeshua, who said that no, you have to pair working im en kemach im Torah. That's where that statement comes from, that Gemara. You got to go ahead and make the dough, right? If you don't have the dough, you don't got the bread, you don't got the money, you're not having any Torah. And the truth is, if you think about it from a historical place, right? I love, for me, one of the greatest points in history is before 1492 in Spain, right? Golden Age, they call it the Golden Age of Spain. Why? Right, it wasn't, but it was for Jews in many ways. Jews lived in Spain from about the 1st century up until the 15th century.
But in 1390, whatever, they started with the first.
There were issues there, but when Jews talk about the Golden Age, we're talking about the Chachamim that it produced. We're talking about the end of the Rishonim period. We're talking about all those amazing rabbis that lived, the brilliant scholars that came out, and so on and so forth. Now, what's interesting is that, just so you understand the history of it, if you were a Jew living anywhere in Europe, where did you go to yeshiva from the 1st century till the 9th century?
Spain.
You went from Europe to Iraq. The only yeshiva that was outside of Israel was either in Israel or Iraq. You went to Iraq. That was the leading academy.
Surah and Pumbedisa?
Yeah. Yeah. You went to Iraq. You went to Iraq you go to yeshiva. That's where you went. So every Jewish kid went to Iraq. Now, there's two things that changed. One is by the 10th century in Europe, Jews were able to start owning some land and were able to produce enough income to keep their scholarship local, right? For the Ashkenazim, it started with Rashi, who was a wine merchant, Rashi Wines, and he was able to support his family and all him and his daughters and the Baitos. But afterwards, that's where Ashkenaz Jewry came from, north of France, okay, closer to Germany. Ashkenazi, German, relationship over there. Now, the Sephardim were a little different. There was actually a great story. I will get a piece. Happy birthday, Sammy.
Rabbi, come on.
No, it's a shot. I'm gonna have it. I will have it today. No, I'm good. Thank God. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you have by the Sephardim was a little different. By the Sephardim in Spain, right, in southern Spain, remember that southern Spain was often attacked by the Almohads, which is I'd say like the ISIS of that time. Okay, crazy, extreme Islamic groups that kept coming, attacking, they're pushed out, back and forth. But anyway, that area was more Sephardic, southern Spain. Okay, the south of Spain was already like somewhat mixed.
El Andalus.
And El Andalus. Anyway, so you have what happened was like this. There were a bunch of Jewish rabbis. There were rabbis coming from Iraq who were collecting money for yeshiva. It was happening even back then, right? They were going from Iraq. They get on a ship in the middle, like somewhere up in the north over there, and go across into Spain, right, through the Mediterranean, get into Spain, and do fundraising because that's where the money was. What happened was that these pirates came, they kidnapped the rabbis, and they brought them out onto the slave trade, right? So they have these 3 rabbis up on one of those platforms where they're selling the slaves, and someone noticed the rabbanim and paid them and actually rescued them. Okay, the pirates found out that these were rabbis. They should have got more money for. They were Chashu people. They came and they found them in the town. They kidnapped them a second time. Okay, now this time they bumped up the price. So the community said, we're gonna save you, Pidim Shvuyim, on condition that you stay. We want you to stay. And that's where the Rambam's father, right, started his yeshiva learning. Okay.
And why were they not kidnapped a 3rd time?
That's a great question. They moved them. They figured out the pirates' plans. They moved them out of the city already. They didn't keep them there. They moved them out. Okay. So you have this division of Sephardi Ashkenazi Jewry happening because of affluence. That was the point of all this. When Jews have the financial ability, they have the ability of supporting higher levels of education. Now, what's interesting is that if you think about it from the Mitzad the Rishonim, this is more like a history class today, which is just interesting, right? The 90% of all the Rishonim are Sephardic, right? All of them are Sephardic. Now, the Achronim is switch. The Achronim switches. It's mostly Ashkenazim. Now, what ended up happening? When the Sephardim were exiled after 1492, they lost all their businesses, lost their parnassah, they were impoverished. And when there was a lack of resources, they couldn't afford to send their kids to school and get higher learning. Degraded on some level some of the Torah learning. There were certain exceptional people with crazy brains that came out and were still able to produce stuff in that world. But what ended up happening, they started going more into Kabbalah, into mysticism. And mysticism doesn't have the same type of scholarship, the rigor brain that you need for like a sharp Gemara learning kind of thing, right? So you see that there was a little bit of a downplay. So anyway, this is the idea of Hishtadlut, right? We're saying ultimately that there has to be some kind of Hishtadlut according to the Chotel Avavot. The Ramban says no. If you really have trust in Hashem, you will let go of everything. You'll do everything, leave it up to Hashem. He'll take care of everything. Now the truth is that it has to do with where you are at in terms of your bitachon. If we have a bitachon scale, right, or an emunah scale, right, where do you fall on that scale? The more you're able to build up your bitachon, the more you realize one essential thing. It's never you.
Sure.
Even my intelligence, my strength, including my wealth, all the things that I have is from Borei Olam. It's all from Hashem. I do nothing. I am, like I said, like Rav Orluk used to say all the time, I'm nothing but a waiter. I don't do anything. It's not my Torah, not my ideas. I'm just serving something that doesn't even belong to me. Someone else in the kitchen made it. I'm just sharing it. I'm helping with a little bit of the, the way the display. But that's about it. It's all coming from Borei Olam. So Rav Wolbe says like this. He says that, okay, the Ramban says that we see that human effort is sometimes necessary, but it's not a mitzvah to do the human effort according to the Ramban. The Chovat Levavot says, no, it's a mitzvah, and therefore, do what you got to do, but ultimately it's entrusting in Hashem. Okay, this is Rabbi Yerucham in Dat Umusar, and this is what he says, and then we'll do this, we'll end it for tomorrow. So he says as follows, Midrash, he says there's 4 kings have 4 different strategies. Okay, there's 4 different kings of the Jewish people, we see 4 different strategies. Number 1 is David HaMelech. He said, I will chase my enemies, and God said, I will do so. Asa, that is David HaMelech's great grandson. I will chase, page 2, the last paragraph.
Asa, was he a king?
He was a king. Yeah, he was a king. He was actually a very good king. From King David. Yes.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, yes, you have. He's in Malachim. If you've gone through Sefer Malachim, he's at the end of Malachim. Okay, anyway, fine. So King Asa, right, like our president, Sali Asa, which is actually interesting because this was near Syria. Some of the stuff that he did was near Syria. Could be his descendant. I don't know. I will chase you, and God will act. Yoshaphat said, I can only sing and you will act. Chizkiah said, I can neither chase nor fight nor sing. I will sleep in my bed and you act. God agreed to all.
And that the 180,000 of them died.
Correct. So now, the point, each king, a great question, who was right? The point,
each was right.
According to their level.
Each was right.
Remember, so Rav Dessler would say that it's Nikudat Bechira. I would say Nikudat Bitachon. Right? It has to do with his Bitachon point. Where is he on the scale of things? Where is he at? Right? I should not go ahead and pretend to be a guy who could let go and let God in areas that I can't. I need to build myself to a place where I can actually get to that place.
So you could buy index funds and not trade stocks?
Correct. I could. Not sure there's a veil. Okay, anyway, but the point, each king evaluated honestly what level of human effort would still be aligned with pure faith and free of ego. David was capable of full action while keeping complete faith. Asa could pursue but not kill. Yehoshaphat could only sing. And Chizkiah, then nothing. This was the only way he could avoid even a trace of self-reliance. Each acted according to his own spiritual capacity. Yes.
Hezekiah had the most faith.
Yes, he had the most faith out of all of them. And the least resistance, yeah. But Zad Hashem, we'll pick up tomorrow. We'll go through that Chochmah and the Chazon Ish to see how we kind of like close up the idea. Wishing you all an amazing day. Shavua Tov.